Welcome back to the world of Randall Williams. Today we dive into the world of sports and music because I want to tell you what to expect from the NFL's two Christmas Day games that will be featured exclusively on Netflix. The two games of the 1 p.m. slot between the Kansas City Chiefs and the Pittsburgh Steelers, and the 4:30 p.m. slot between the Baltimore Ravens, who will be visiting the Houston Texans. The NFL stacked the lineup. First of all, I think two marquee matchups between, um, you know, teams that have superstar quarterbacks. CJ Stroud is an up and coming star who, although he hasn't played well, I think he garnered a lot of attention last season. And the Texans are in playoff position again this year. It's also a playoff rematch and what's looking like going to be a playoff preview between those two teams. The Texans and the Ravens, they played last year in the playoffs. The Ravens beat them pretty handedly. But the way that the playoff bracket is looking right now, it looks like they could meet again because the Texans are the 4 seed and the Ravens are the 5. So potential playoff preview. I think the Steelers and the Chiefs game will be interesting. I'm pre-recording this now just because it's pretty easy to do. I'll probably post on the 23rd or the 24th. So Merry Christmas Eve to you and your family. Back to the video. I don't know if Patrick Mahomes is going to play in the Christmas Day game at 1 p.m. He sprained his ankle as of this recording. It will be 3 games in a 10-day span starting today. It's the 15th. He plays another one on the 21st on Saturday, and then there's another turnaround on the 25th. If it's a high ankle sprain and it's one that he was dealing with similar to what he suffered in the playoffs 2 years ago now, or maybe about 2 years ago, I can't imagine him playing both. I think Carson Wentz might end up starting one of those games. But anyways, let's get to the business side of things. Netflix paid $150 million for those 2 games, and they're getting their money's worth. They're getting their money worth. So why did they pay for this? And my printer started working again, by the way. They paid this money because I've been told one of Netflix's biggest days is Christmas Day. People gather around, and watch Netflix after. If they're not watching the NBA, they're not watching the NFL, then they put on a Christmas movie after opening up presents or doing whatever people do on Christmas. I think Netflix might be a pretty common option for families. And so, how in the world did we get Beyonce? That was a question that I had when I went to the NFL owners meeting, the last meeting that was in December in Texas. And what I was told by sources was that Netflix went to the NFL and asked, like, hey, do you mind if we get a premium entertainer, a top of the line entertainer? And I was like, yeah, who do you have in mind? And Netflix was like, hey, need to think on it. I don't know how much time went on after that initial ask, but eventually Netflix came back and was like, Beyonce. What do you think about Beyonce? And of course the NFL was like, what? Like, of course. How do you say no to Beyonce? They were ecstatic. At some point in this, Rock Nation got involved. The 3 parties talked between Netflix, the NFL, Rock Nation, or 4 parties, Rock Nation and Beyonce. Why would Rock Nation get involved? They do all of the NFL's live entertainment. Rock Nation's CEO is Jay-Z, or the Rock Nation's founder is Jay-Z. So, Jay-Z's wife is Beyonce. This was probably a fairly easy deal to get done. Beyonce also has a pre-existing relationship with Netflix for the Homecoming documentary or the Homecoming film. Netflix and the NFL have a pre-existing relationship from the quarterback and the receiver series. So all of these parties know each other. I also know that this pissed off a lot of the NFL's current broadcasters. Now, I'm naming them. I don't know any of these, if these broadcasters were particularly pissed off, but CBS, ESPN, NBC, Fox, all of the league's traditional partners who have these games. I don't know if Amazon was mad. Who else am I missing? I think it might be 5. But pissed them off because this is, prime real estate, Christmas Day games, Black Friday games, Thanksgiving games, all of these things, all of these networks want. These are things that networks cherish. So how was the NFL able to do this? Well, Christmas Day falls on a Wednesday this year. So the way that I've been told that it works is, of course, Monday night is ESPN. You have Fox, CBS, and NBC on Sundays, generally speaking. Thursdays are Amazon's day. And so because no one really has the rights to a Wednesday game, the NFL can sell those games. Now, it doesn't mean that all of the games that are on Wednesday can be sold to an alternative partner, but because we saw this during the COVID year where games were rescheduled on Tuesday, Wednesday, all sorts of things. But in this day in particular, it's a one-off. Um, and Netflix just paid a price that the NFL wanted. So that's how things got started. I think that I've been told the show is going to be between 9 and 11 minutes. It's going to be a little bit shorter than the Super Bowl. The Super Bowl halftime show normally ranges between 12 and 15. Usher's show was the longest ever. It was a 15-minute show. Um, I think it was recently announced that Mariah Carey is going to be a part of it. I imagine she's going to do her classic Christmas tunes, some of the greatest Christmas songs ever. Um, but what can we expect from Queen Bee? There's a reason that I think she's there. Obviously, she does not show up anywhere that she does not want to be. She does not perform anywhere that she does not want to perform. And I am speculating and saying that there has to be some sort of announcement. I don't know what it could be. A new song, a new album, merchandise. Who knows? Who knows? But the reason that you do this with the NFL and not another league is because the NFL is some of the most watched broadcast in America. Like they pretty much take up what, like I think it's like 80 to 90 spots, 93 slots, whatever it is. They Football games occupy some of the most watched telecasts of the year. If you're an artist, performing on national television gets you more eyes than you can imagine, like at once. So for Beyonce, I don't think you can go without I don't think you can go into this performing and not post something, whether it be a QR code or whatever, that announces something. I feel like if you are performing at an NFL event on national television, people are going to be watching you. It's an exclusive game on Netflix, or it's the Super Bowl, or something along those lines, where people are going to be tuning in. It's going to be 30 to 40 million people, and you're an artist. You have to have something. It can't just be nothing. I'd be shocked. I'd be shocked. It's very rare. Like Rihanna was one of those people who, her announcement felt like she was pregnant. Usher dropped an album. I expect Kendrick to do something, maybe the GNX Deluxe. Um, but I expect Beyonce to have something to say. I'll let the Beehive speculate as to what that could be. But I'm looking forward to it. It's the first time ever. I think that this will supercharge viewership for the NFL on Christmas Day. Last year, the Christmas Day games were interesting. Um, we obviously had the Raiders, and the Raiders upset the Chiefs. I think the 49ers got upset by the Ravens. Two really stellar. I might be missing a third game, but stellar games. I don't think the marketing was quite there the way that it is this year. The NFL and Netflix have been really intentional about getting this out there and putting Beyonce behind this. It just makes, I think, more people tune in. I don't know how many more people will tune in because of her, but it's going to be a significant amount. And the fact that it is on Netflix, it means that everyone's going to be, instead of running to, traditional network television, you're going to be booting your app up and clicking on the Chiefs game, which is already being advertised on their app. Now, for Netflix, you got to get this right. You cannot fuck up. You can't. If you remember the Mike Tyson and Jake Paul fight, my stream buffered for 12 hours. Like I fell asleep, I woke up, it was buffering. I went out to get groceries, I came back and it was playing. I thought my brother was watching the fight and it was my TV, which had finally unbuffered. But at the same time, like I think it was like 50 or 60 million people tuned in to that. I'm going to look that up really quickly. But with that being said, like you get that many viewers and it's hard to be looked at as a loss. And so when it comes to Beyonce, you don't want to fuck it up. You don't want to fuck it up. If this was another artist, a small time artist, you know, might be a little different. Yeah, the Tyson versus Jake Paul fight averaged, no, that's too high. Yeah, 60 million households tuned in for the Jake Paul and Mike Tyson. So I don't know if the NFL will get that many. The Thanksgiving Day games, I think the highest to watch one was probably 38 million around that this year. I would expect that the Chiefs Steelers maybe around that. If Patrick Mahomes is playing, I think it could get to 42. If he's not playing, I'd expect it in the 35 to 38 range. That Ravens Texans game, if all the stars are playing and Beyonce is out, I think that could get to 45 million, potentially 50 million viewers. And I'm just guesstimating here. I'm not a television ratings writer or anything like that, but just speaking from the sheer hype that Beyonce has had this year and even last year and the year before from Renaissance and the Cowboy Carter album, I expect her fans to come into the supercharge. So if you're Netflix, whatever issues you had a month ago, they damn sure better be solved. And I'm speaking not only for her fans, I'm speaking for myself because I have a vested interest in watching this too. And I don't want to have to write about this the day after Christmas and talk about how, yes, Netflix got 47 million viewers to tune in, but no one could watch. That's not fun for anybody. So, Netflix, please, whatever you had, whatever issues you had in November with the Jake Paul and Mike Tyson fight, in about 10 days, they better be fixed. um, One of the questions that I've asked the NFL is, does this become a tradition where a standout artist, a superstar artist of some sort performs on Christmas Day? Because I think it could be. I think it could be interesting. You think of, Kendrick in LA, Wayne in New Orleans. Who else? I mean, Taylor Swift in Nashville, Sabrina Carpenter in, I don't know which team she roots for, but uh, Pittsburgh or Philly. All of these places are interesting, but I don't know if it happens. I don't know if they know if it happens, but I think it should. I think it makes the holidays a little bit more fun and makes it um, something to look forward to. It does put a little bit of an added pressure on the Super Bowl halftime show performer because if people watch the Netflix show and then they watch the Super Bowl and they feel like the Netflix thing is better now, but it's potential competition, and that could be the dialogue. I don't know that the NFL cares about that, but the artist will. Um, Netflix will get a game in 2025 and 2026. Will it be this grand? Not sure. Why do I say that? Because Christmas falls on a Wednesday this year. It will fall on a Thursday next year. That means Amazon will get a game. It falls on a Friday the year after. I don't know who will get those games, but um, it'll be interesting to see if they stack the lineups again, if they try to get another artist. I think you have to keep in mind that for the Super Bowl halftime show performers, like Taylor Swift is coming at some point. At some point, Hove is going to call her and be like, "Let's do it." I'd guess the SoFi Stadium one, but also maybe Super Bowl 60, maybe Super Bowl 60 in San Francisco or Santa Clara. Um, so, who would you like to see perform at an NFL and Netflix Christmas Day game? I don't have anybody at the top of the list. I just think this is really, really fun. It's a fun thing to do. And it's a fun thing for people to gather around and celebrate their families with football. I think for the NBA, this is bad, bad news. Bad news. I talked about this in, I think, a reel, but it's bad news for the NBA because right now, like a lot of the conversation around that league in particular is that the viewership is dropping. It's a bunch of tired narratives. However, some of them are true. Like the ratings are down, viewership is dropping, and Christmas Day was a standout NBA day. And now it's literally being ripped out from up under them right in front of our very eyes. I couldn't, off the top of my head, I believe the Knicks are playing the Spurs, Lakers, Celtics. Um, there's a couple other games. There's like five matchups, but all of these games and the Timberwolves must be playing someone because of Anthony Edwards. But all of these games, while the NBA, I would say, still has the biggest superstars in North American sports, Um, yeah, North American sports. I had to think about it really quickly. They still have the biggest superstars, but they lack the stories right now. Like in the NBA, the Celtics won the finals, but it was a dominant and boring matchup. Jason, the stars didn't play well. I think that the league is going through a transitioning period where the stars of the last two generations, LeBron, Steph, KD, Dame, Kyrie, whoever else you want to throw in there, they're getting towards the tail end of their careers, and they're not able to carry things the same way that they were. And the younger generation is just kind of rotating on who is going to be passing the torch. And normally it's a group of guys that are able to carry it. But right now, what we've seen is like Jason Tatum is supposed to be one of the main flag bearers. He didn't play in the Olympics. He didn't have the best showing in the NBA Finals. And so I don't think he's been a ratings magnet just yet. Joker doesn't want to. Giannis is fun, but he got injured last year, and I think the year before he got bounced. Um, so it just takes time. It takes time. But right now, this is not a good time for the NBA in terms of just the Christmas Day lineup, because you look at the NFL superstars, all of them are young. The NFL is like it's Patrick Mahomes and everyone else in terms of age. I think Patrick Mahomes is 29. Lamar Jackson has to be 27. Joe Burrow around the same age. Josh Allen around the same age. Like what's happening is that this is a change. This is we could be witnessing a tradition changing in large part because all of the NFL superstars are young. They're just young. I mean, if you look at the older generation quarterbacks right now, it's really four guys left. It's Stafford, it is Rodgers, it's Wilson, and it is Kirk Cousins. I think those are the oldest quarterbacks who are like actively playing. There might be some 30, and I'm saying like elder statesman quarterback, but none of those outside of Rodgers, I'd say, are big draws. So everybody who's under the age of, let's say, 31, it's fair game. Like your world is for the taking, or the NFL world is for the taking, and we see it. Like you saw C.J. Stroud led his team to the playoffs, and now everyone's interested in C.J. Stroud. Obviously, like I said earlier in the video, his year hasn't gone the way that he wanted it to in terms of his production, but it just shows how quickly, if you turn a franchise around, you turn a losing team to a winning team, the way that you're going to be able to attract viewers is going to allow the NFL to put you on national television. For the NBA, it seems a little bit different. They're putting stars in the light, and then sometimes they're not performing, or there's no story behind it. It just feels like we're just watching 63 pointers and 73 pointers being chucked up, and the product is just different than what it used to be. So, going back to what this video is about, who would you like to see perform in the NFL Netflix halftime Christmas Day game? And who would you like to see play on those games in the future? I think the NFL is going to continue to stack these lineups. I would not be surprised if there was another performer next year, but I'm interested to know also, what do you think Beyoncé will have on Christmas for us? Can't be nothing. I, I just don't think she would perform on Christmas without anything to say. But let me know what you think in the comments. This has been fun. Like, comment, and subscribe. And this is The World with Randall Williams. See you all soon, and Merry Christmas.